Right now, somewhere in the world, someone is laughing. Someone is dancing. Someone is telling a story that isn't true but is too good not to tell. Someone is playing a game they didn't invent, with rules they didn't write, in a tradition that stretches back further than anyone in the room could imagine. Someone is listening to music and feeling something in their chest that they couldn't put into words if you asked them to. None of this is new. None of it is modern. None of it is a product of civilization, of technology, of leisure time created by the Industrial Revolution. The urge to play, to perform, to laugh, to make music, to tell stories, to compete for no practical reason. These are not things humans invented after they had taken care of survival. These are things humans did while they were still figuring out survival, alongside it, sometimes instead of it. The archaeological record tells a story that almost nobody expects. It tells a story of a species that, from the very beginning, took place seriously, that decorated things that didn't need to be decorated, made music before it made cities, played games before it had writing, danced before it had agriculture. A species for whom fun was not a reward for work but a fundamental mode of being, as necessary as food, as wired in as fear, as old as the species itself. The oldest musical instrument ever found is a flute carved from a vulture bone, discovered in a cave in Germany and dated to at least 43,000 years ago. Not a weapon, not a tool, a flute. Someone, 43,000 years ago, spent significant time and effort carving a musical instrument when they could have been making something useful. This tells you something important about what kind of creature the human being is, and it is not the creature most history books describe. Music is older than pottery, older than agriculture, older than writing, older than the wheel. It is almost certainly older than any of the technologies we use to define the beginning of civilization. And it appears, from every available line of evidence, to have been universal, present in every human culture that has ever existed, with no known exceptions. The Divjay flute, carved from a cave bear femur and found in Slovenia, dates to somewhere between 50,000 and 60,000 years ago, which would make it older than the migration of modern humans out of Africa into Europe, meaning it may have been made by Neanderthals, not Homo sapiens. The debate about its origin continues. What is not debated is its intent. Whether Neanderthal or human, someone looked at a bone and heard music in it, and decided to make that music audible. That decision is one of the most profound in the entire history of our species. Why music? This is a question that has puzzled evolutionary biologists for generations, because music, in the narrow, immediate survival of the fittest sense, should not exist. It does not help you find food. It does not protect you from predators. It does not keep you warm. It is metabolically expensive to produce and requires learning and practice that takes time away from other activities. By any strict accounting of evolutionary costs and benefits, music should have been selected against. And yet it wasn't. It thrived. It spread. It appears to be the one cultural universal, the single practice present in every known human society without exception. The most compelling explanations are social. Music synchronizes bodies. When people move together to a shared rhythm, their physiological states align. Heart rates, breathing patterns, even hormonal profiles become more similar. This synchronization produces feelings of connection, of trust, of shared identity. In a world where cooperation was survival, and where cooperation depended on trust, and where trust between unrelated individuals was genuinely difficult to establish and maintain, music may have been one of the most powerful social technologies ever developed. Not entertainment. Infrastructure. Ancient music was also almost certainly accompanied by dance. The two are inseparable in virtually every traditional culture that survives, and the neurological research suggests they share deep common roots. That the human brain experiences rhythm in the body, not just the ears, and that movement to music is as fundamental a response as the music itself. When your foot taps involuntarily to a beat you hear, you are experiencing something your ancestors experienced 40,000 years ago. The beat has not changed. The response has not changed. The circuit is the same. Humans play games. Other animals play too. Young mammals in particular engage in play that appears to function as rehearsal for adult behaviors. But human game playing is qualitatively different from anything else in the animal kingdom. Humans play games with elaborate rules. They play games purely for the pleasure of competing, with no resource at stake, no survival advantage gained. They play games they lose at repeatedly, and keep playing anyway. They play games for audiences. They play games after they are too old to need the skills those games might once have developed, and they have been doing this for a very, very long time. The oldest known board game in the world is the royal game of found in the royal tombs of ancient Mesopotamia and dated to approximately 4,600 years ago. The rules were unknown for centuries until a cuneiform tablet was found in the British Museum that turned out to be the ancient equivalent of a rulebook. Instructions for how to play, written by a Babylonian scribe around 177 BC. The game itself is a race game, two players moving pieces around a board, strategy combined with chance produced by throwing dice-like objects. Sound familiar? It should. The fundamental structure, two players, a board, pieces to move, chance elements, a finishing condition, is the same structure used by hundreds of games still played today. But board games are actually late in the story of human play. Long before anyone sat down to a board game, people were playing physical games. Games of running, throwing, wrestling, swimming, climbing. The evidence for these games is harder to find in the archaeological record. You cannot dig up a foot race, but it is present everywhere you look. Ancient Egyptian tomb paintings show scenes of wrestling, acrobatics, and ball games. The ancient Greeks institutionalized athletic competition into the Olympic Games, a tradition they didn't invent but formalized. Evidence suggests athletic competitions of various kinds existed across the ancient world long before the first Olympic Games in 776 BC. The ancient Aztecs played a ball game called tlachtli on specially constructed stone courts, a game with complex rules and, apparently, very high stakes. The ball itself is older than any of this. Balls made of rubber, of wrapped cloth, of animal bladders. Evidence of ball use stretches across ancient cultures on every inhabited continent. The ball may be one of humanity's oldest toys. And a toy, an object used purely for play with no other function, is a remarkable thing. It represents an investment of material and effort in an object whose only purpose is fun. The existence of toys tells you that fun was, for ancient humans, worth investing in. Storytelling may be the most ancient form of human entertainment there is. More ancient than music, possibly, or at least so intertwined with music that the two cannot be meaningfully separated. The earliest human art that we can identify suggests storytelling. The cave paintings of Lascaux and Altamira, and hundreds of other sites around the world, dating back 40,000 years or more, show animals in motion, hunting scenes, humans in relationship with the world around them. These images tell stories, whether they were part of ritual practice, or record-keeping, or pure expression, or entertainment, they are narratives. They depict events unfolding across time. The human brain is, at its core, a story machine. We think in narrative. We remember in narrative. We make sense of the world by arranging events into stories with causes and consequences, protagonists and antagonists, beginnings and endings. This is not a cultural overlay on top of some more fundamental cognitive structure. It is the fundamental cognitive structure, and the need to hear stories, to be taken somewhere else, to live briefly in a different time and place, to experience danger and love and loss and triumph without the costs, is as old and as deep as the need to eat. Anthropologists studying contemporary hunter-gatherer societies have found that storytelling occupies a remarkable amount of daily life. Among the Juhoansi of the Kalahari, researchers found that around a third of all evening camp conversation consisted of storytelling. Jokes, narratives, recounting of events both recent and mythological, performance for an audience. The campfire was not just a source of heat and light. It was a stage. Stories served practical purposes too. They transmitted cultural knowledge, recorded history, encoded moral frameworks, explained the world. But they were also simply enjoyable. The best storytellers in ancient communities were known and celebrated for their skill. People gathered to hear them. They were, in the most literal sense, entertainers. The oldest profession in the world may not be what you've been told. It may be the storyteller. And humor. This is the part of ancient entertainment that leaves the least trace in the archaeological record, but may be the most important. Laughter is universal. Every human culture laughs. Every human culture has jokes. The oldest written joke ever found is Sumerian, from approximately 1900 BC, a riddle that translates roughly as something that has never occurred since time immemorial. A young woman who did not fart in her husband's lap. It is a fart joke. The oldest recorded joke in human history is a fart joke. 3,900 years have passed and this still lands. Here is where we land. The ancient humans sitting by their fire at the end of a day of hunting, foraging, building, and surviving was not simply exhausted and inert. They were doing what humans have always done with the hours not consumed by immediate survival. They were making music. They were telling stories. They were playing games. They were laughing at jokes that would still be recognizable as jokes today. The things we call entertainment, the concerts, the films, the sports, the novels, the comedies, the games, are not inventions of modern leisure culture. They are refinements of drives so ancient that they predate our species in some form. So fundamental that no human culture has ever been found without them, so wired into the human nervous system that people will pursue them under conditions of genuine privation. Prisoners make music. Refugees tell stories. Children in war zones play games. Fun is not what humans do when everything else is taken care of. Fun is what humans do. It is part of the definition. Take it away and you do not have a more efficient human being. You have a less human one. Your ancient ancestor dancing around a fire 40,000 years ago was not wasting time. They were doing something as necessary as eating, maintaining the social bonds, the shared identity, the collective emotional regulation that kept their group alive. The dance was not a break from survival. The dance was survival, wearing a different face. And the flute that someone carved from a vulture bone in a cave in Germany 43,000 years ago, the instrument that should not exist, that serves no survival purpose, that someone made anyway because they heard music in a bone and could not leave it unplayed. That flute is not a footnote to human history. It is one of the most important objects ever made. It is proof that humans were always this way. That even in the deepest, darkest, most uncertain point in our history, someone sat down and decided that beauty mattered. That sound could mean something beyond information. That the world was not only for surviving in, it was also for playing in. That's all for today. Please donate or subscribe to fund the next video.